Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining. We are starting our session which talks about India and Australia co-production, the way forward. And we have our esteemed speakers today here. I welcome Shri Prithul Kumar, Joint Secretary, Films, Ministry of Information, Broadcasting, Government of India. Welcome, sir. We have our moderator, Mr. Rajiv Masand, his former critic and COO, Dharma Cornerstone Agency. And I welcome my fellow panelist, Ms. Meetu. She is an Indian Film Festival of Melbourne director, producer of My Melbourne, and board member of We Screen. Welcome. Mr. Onir, he's a filmmaker. Welcome you, sir. We have Mr. Vidya Anand Sangram. He's from Australian government. And we have Ms. Reema Das. She's a renowned filmmaker. Welcome you all. And now I hand over to Mr. Rajiv Masand. Sir, please, you may take it forward.
Actually,
Thank you.
Thank you. If I may ask Joint Secretary, Sir, Mr. Kumar, to say a few words to perhaps put this into context and sort of explain to us why this is a significant development and why this is important what we're doing here.
Hello. Is it audible?
Yeah.
Okay. So a very good afternoon to everyone. And I see a full house after the afternoon sessions. Normally in colleges and all, everywhere we go, afternoon sessions, people used to go out to sleep. So anyway, we'll not like to you to sleep. So this India-Australia co-production agreement for audiovisual cooperation, this has just happened in March 2023. Now, India and Australia go together in diplomatic relations in a long history, which culminated in an economic trade agreement which was signed last year. And it is of very much significance because, more than 80% of our imports of both the countries, they were made, import duty free by both the countries. So it's a very important agreement which we had last year. And this was very important because, we were at one hand, we were economically cooperating with Australia. We also required to culturally get together with Australia because of many reasons. Like the Indian diaspora today in Australia is about 10 lakh people, which is the second highest ethnicity in Australia. And so is about 1 lakh of students every year go to study over there. So that is the kind of interactions which we are actually having with Australian diaspora. And a lot of our films have been very successfully shot in Australia. The one which I remember is Chak De India. And we defeated Australia. I thought we would have been defeating Pakistan. So, but anyway, so this audiovisual co-production agreement was an offshoot of all this. And because the Prime Minister of Australia was visiting us in the March, so we thought that it was an opportune moment to sign it. Apart from that, where it has come from, but this is important to tell you also that where will it take us henceforth with India and Australia signing a co-production agreement. So from the Indian side, we have announced incentives for the filmmakers who work under this co-production agreement. Like a producer has to be from India and a co-producer has to be from Australia. So we will give them incentives to the tune of $2.5 lakh for the whole film. And so something like that kind of arrangement will also be given from the side of Australians. So they also have different incentives, like Victoria State gives something, then the Melbourne side would be giving something else. So they also have their incentives. So filmmaking will get incentivized in the sense the cost of production will be much lesser if you're having co-producers from these two countries, which will in fact, allow us to make more films on the subjects with Indians and Australians, so, they together kind of delve on, which is going to increase the cultural connect as well. So that is the background in which we have done this agreement. And I'm sure that this agreement is going to go forward, and with all these people here, I think they will try to mobilize these co-productions and eventualities when you start making good movies under this co-production. So we look forward to that. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll ask Vidya and Meetu perhaps to talk about. Let me very quickly talk about the festival that Meetu runs. This is the Indian Film Festival of Melbourne. I've had the privilege of attending. It's really a great melting pot cultural sort of milestone where some of the best films made across the country and the subcontinent are screened for a diaspora and for an Australian audience in Melbourne and Sydney as well. Occasionally, this is the 14th year of the festival. One of the things that will tell you just how special it is something I was telling Rima. Rima is an incredible filmmaker. Her films have played at big festivals like Cannes. In 2019, at the IFFM, her film opened. It was Village Rockstars. Bulbul Can Sing. Her film Bulbul Can Sing opened the Indian Film Festival of Melbourne, and it was introduced by Shah Rukh Khan. You know, that doesn't happen very often, and it's a great example of what the IFFIM does. Brings talent and brings achievers from hardcore mainstream Indian cinema on the same platform with a beautiful indie film made by an indie champion director, and that was one of those moments which kind of gives you a sense of what IFFIM does. So more power to the festival. But now, of course, they've also embarked on the My Melbourne film, which I will allow Meetu and Vidya to talk about, and the significance of these wonderful filmmakers, Imtiaz, Rima, Onir, and Kabir Khan, who couldn't be here, who are all making a short within the anthology. But all yours, Meetu.
Thank you everyone for being here. And it's a great privilege to be talking about our festival, the connections that we have made, and also about My Melbourne. So like Rajiv said, I run the Indian Film Festival of Melbourne, which is supported and produced by the Victorian government. As a part of the festival, we screen over 100 films from over most of the Indian languages. We also have a focus on films from the Indian subcontinent. We are the largest celebration of Indian films outside India. And during the pandemic, when most of the festivals went online, we were the first film festival and perhaps the only one in Australia that has its own streaming platform. So now we screen Indian films and films from the subcontinent throughout the year, which is free to watch Australia-wide. So that has really increased a huge appetite, understanding, and penetration for Indian films, not just in the big cities in Australia, but also the more regional and smaller pockets. As a part of the festival, now we have embarked on this wonderful initiative called My Melbourne. So just to take 2 minutes and give you a bit of a background, we do a short film competition as a part of the festival. And throughout the festival, we have had some great winners. And Onir has always been very kind and been one of the judges for the short film competition. And what used to happen is our winners, who would mostly be of South Asian descent, we would not see them working actively in the industry a lot. And a large part of that was somewhere they were not able to navigate the cultural differences, or they were not getting the right opportunities. So that was the background to which we launched My Melbourne, which was to empower people from marginalized background to be able to tell their own stories and be their own most authentic, true self. And what we thought that it would be really good if we could bring on board some of the most loved, respected filmmakers in the world, not just India, who would mentor these emerging creatives from marginalized backgrounds in Australia. So we have, it's an anthology of 4 short films. And they all celebrate the 4 foundations of diversity. So one is based on sexuality, which Onir is helming. The second one is on disability, which Rima Das is helming. The third one is on gender and displacement, which Imtiaz is helming. And the fourth is on race, which Kabir is helming. But the beauty of the project is that all 4 stories are from lived experience. They're real, they're true, and they're very authentic. And I think that was what was appealing to our wonderful mentor directors also, who have been incredibly generous with their time and their skill. So I feel really privileged that we are able to produce something like this, and can't wait to bring it over here and show you all.
Vidya, would you like to add?
Thanks, Rajiv. So I represent the Victorian government in India, and we are talking about the festival, and I've known Meetu for over a decade now. And I know single-handedly, and I was telling some of the FICCI members as well, single-handedly she was raising the flag there for the Indian cinema, not just in Australia, but Australia and New Zealand. So working for a government, we all like to be a part of the good stories all the time. So with Me Too and with the work that she's been doing, we have been a proud, privileged partner or a supporter of the festival since inception. Today, Raji mentioned it's the 14th year, and I can't even believe time's gone so fast. But the festival is not just about getting people stars and a congregation of that. It was more about all the initiatives that Me Too is driving that aligns very much with what the government initiatives are. Today, we're talking about inclusivity, we're talking about diversity, we're talking about education as a part of the festival that Me Too is driving. We also have a Shah Rukh Khan scholarship. So there's multiple things that touches upon every single aspect. And we never had a strategy for India, and the Joint Secretary Sir said, we had the free trade agreement, exports, imports, investments, everything is going. But the standalone here was the co-production treaty, and we've been working on this for almost 13 years now. So it was time, I think, that everything is happening in spite of not having a co-production treaty. So this was more of a nudge. This was more about it. So the federal government has got its own incentives, as it was outlined, and the state has got its own incentives. Now it is just about the people-to-people connection, getting people there. And it's not more about the diaspora stories that we're doing with My Melbourne. It is also about the partnerships, the collaborations. We've got such excellent directors from India who are mentoring, and these are opportunities that we don't get in Australia, every other day. So it was very, very important for a government like us to be a part of it, and that's why it's still Indian Film Festival of Melbourne, and the project is also called My Melbourne. Thanks, Rajiv.
Lovely. If I may ask the three filmmakers, Onir and Rima, you all have already shot your films. Imtiaz, you go to Melbourne soon to shoot yours. Can you talk about, and I know you're not going to tell us what the film's about, and you shouldn't because we'd love to discover it, but why was this a project that you were keen to throw your hat in and say, this is something I'd love to do? And really what the experience so far has been for them, because they've shot it already, but with your mentees and sort of working with a younger filmmaker and sort of passing on, if you like. All three of you, anyone can go first.
Hi, good afternoon. Thanks for being here. It's a pleasure to talk to Rajiv. This usually happens once in 2 years for me because that's the rate at which I make films. The reason for me to be keen to do this, Rajiv, was because Me Too asked me to. And this time, what she said also made a lot of sense. I'm very proud of the way Me Too has conducted her life and career, I must say. We go back to college, and I have been to Melbourne for the festival one time, and I have seen how Me Too is socially, how she interacts with, the entire, like everybody. And I understand the reach that has for us as filmmakers, for us as a country, to learn new things from different cultures in Australia, to tell us our stories, and also to learn new things from them. And I think My Melbourne came across as exactly that kind of opportunity. Also I feel sometimes that media has made our point of view very narrow. It's almost as though what comes onto your phone and what you learn in life is pre-selected by some other agency. So sometimes you've got to go to a new place and have a different experience, which is perhaps not so calibrated towards your immediate success, to learn new things. So for Me Too, I look at it like that. That's the opportunity that you've given me to work with new filmmakers and to see what I can learn from them, and if there's anything in my journey that they might, try to learn or whatever, then I'm all there for that. And the sensitivity of the topics. I loved all the, as she says, the 4 foundations, and but especially the one that I'm working on ultimately. So I'm really looking forward. I want to hang with Onir and Rima and learn what problems I'm going to face there soon enough. but very excited to be a part of this and also privileged. Thank you.
Thank you. Rima?
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Rajiv. It's lovely to meet you after a long time. I also feel quite privileged to do this film. And I traveled to Meetu's festival with my film Bulbul Can Sing. And that time only I really connected with her. And I traveled to many festivals, but it was such a special festival, the way everything was done. I was really touched how she was doing. Someone from India and based in Melbourne, how she was, like bravely, she was doing that festival. And there was no question, like I not doing this film when she approached me, because I really love her. And yeah, this film, it's called Into the Spotlight. And it's a really special film for me. And it's about a young woman, how despite of disability and challenges, sets out to be a dancer, to become a dancer. And in my recent film, Tora's Husband, I worked with blind singers, but they were my secondary characters, so I couldn't spend more time. And this film is so special because most of the cast, my lead cast, they are coming from deaf community. Firstly, this is my first film out of my country, working with Australian-based cast and crew. And then it's like handling such a sensitive issue, disability. And from the very beginning, and I know, and that how there are four directors, we have 4 different themes, but this is, I know how Meetu is passionate and emotionally connected to this story because she herself, having her daughter needs special care, and I know that how emotionally attached she is. But it was really amazing. I really salute her, how like sometimes when you are attached to your subject, you lose objectivity. But I'm very intuitive when I'm working, and my mentee director, Samira, she also has Usher syndrome. She has hearing implant and also, cognitive vision over the period of time, fear to lose vision, So there's a lot of challenge, and it was, but Meetu was like, she was so strong that she supported me, supported my vision, and that's how I had a beautiful journey. And I feel like I'm really privileged. I got that opportunity to know more about deaf community, and constantly I was learning how to be more sensitive, and I feel like they are one of us, but most of the time, we make them feel exclusive and excluded, and by our words and actions. So with this film, I learned a lot, and I feel that they have life and dreams, and with the support, like if we work together, how we can, like help and support to fulfill their dreams. And the one, what Meetu, she said to me, it struck with me, that she said that her husband, her daughter Parina, and herself, she said that our world is perfect. But the way people look at us, they make us feel like that we are different. We are with something wrong. So I think we need to create a really inclusive world. And with this film, I really think that it's a small step from us. and we can start conversation, and really I think there will be impact, and I'm really looking forward to this film. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. With Me Too, first a yes happens, and then what is it all about? So that's our friendship, I think, goes back from 2007 when I met her, so it's a long time. I've been to the festival almost, I think, 7 times with everything that I've done, and we have also one of the documentaries, a very special documentary that I did called Raising the Bar. Me Too was the producer, and already we have a history of doing things together, which we shot in Melbourne. And for me, of course, my Melbourne is very, very special for many reasons. 1, Me Too. 2, today when we are discussing marriage equality in the country, it's a privilege to be telling more stories which celebrate equality, and what is interesting is you see it in a different scenario, and it's about cross-cultural experiences of someone who is from here, from a space where we are still fighting to be recognized as equal humans, to be in a space where you're recognized that, and how do you negotiate and deal with that space. And I thank you, Me Too, for giving this opportunity to tell this very important story of diversity and equality. And it was interesting because it's 4 of us directors, very diverse in our work, coming together for a film that celebrates diversity, and working with an entire Australian cast and crew. And I think that's a very enriching experience, because we've been always working here with our set of cast and crew, and you work in a different environment, and working with Menti directors. My director is from South Asian background, from Chinese background, William, and who is queer, out and proud queer, and to start looking at the story from, while you are mentoring them also, you always learn from your mentee how you look at realities in a different context. And at the same time, we all have the shared experience of being from Asia, where, background. So I think it was, fun shooting. And also when one is shooting with Me Too, what comes with it is also this clause that you have to cook for me every evening. So it has lots of memories, and I'm looking forward to, the rest of the films being completed and it all coming together.
Thank you. Midhu, you really lucked out with 4 very incredible directors, very diverse, 2 very indie, 2 who know how to speak to a much larger audience. But the running thread is all their films have very distinct stamps of their own, and each of their films have a true beating heart, and that's wonderful that they're so diverse, and yet they leave their stamp so distinctly on their films. Can you talk about the experience of maybe enabling Rima and Onir on the films that they've already shot in Melbourne, and what that was like, and putting the team together, really getting this diverse sort of crew from Melbourne, and sort of getting them as mentors. What was the shoot like? I mean,
So to be very honest with
prepare Imtiaz for what is to come.
Yeah. No, to be very honest with you, it was not like I thought it in a great way or something. I'm really, truly blessed because I asked Onir that I'm thinking of doing this, and Onir was like, very good idea, I'm in. Then I asked Imtiaz, and Imtiaz was, because I know Imtiaz would struggle to say no to me, so, so Imtiaz was also yes. Then I asked Kabir, and he said yes, and then Rima said yes. So it just happened, and I really believe that if your intent is good and true, the right people come along. So I really feel that this is a perfect case of that. Like Rima said, I have a young daughter living with a disability, and till then, inclusion was a nice, strong word for me. But now it's pretty much the purpose of my life, because I kind of see the discrimination that we all are so casual about every step of the way. And I feel that cinema has that power to start those conversations, to normalize a lot of things, and to that representation that we must have from all walks of life, not just disability or race or gender. So that was the biggest driving force behind the film. And it's been such an incredible privilege that I can't believe sometimes to have all 4 of them agree in a heartbeat. As far as working with Rima and Onir is concerned, it was a beautiful journey. There were a lot of cultural differences because obviously Australia is it's all about governance, and there's lots of rules and things that we need to follow. Everything is very structured. And Indian filmmaking is very spontaneous. So that was a bit of a cultural bridge that we had to do. But we had a great team, and everybody very hungry, very keen to learn. And to give you an example, for example, in Rima's film, which is about a young deaf girl who loves to dance, and our actress was deaf, most of the cast was deaf, and Rima would often tell them that, okay, this is the situation now, you do what you think you would do. And those are the things that, unless and until you have that lived experience, you can't write. So what came out of it was really beautiful, so much more than what we would have expected. So those are the big wins that I think this film will have. And really excited to finish it and showcase it to you all soon.
Is there a plan, and maybe Vidya can answer this, maybe you can answer this, is there a plan, Mithu, as the producer, in terms of how this film will reach out? I mean, is this, also, can you give us a sense of what is the duration of each film? Will they be released as a series of films? Will it be an anthology? What can one expect?
So we are very lucky because we've got all the funding for the film has been from Victorian government and Australian government. And so the plan for the feature film is it'll be a feature film, an anthology. It'll be of 120 minutes. So most of the films are 25 to 30 minutes, and they are all the characters that move from one story to another. And the plan is to obviously premiere at some blue chip festival, then travel, do the festival circuit, and then have a general release in Australia, general release in India, a theatrical release here, and find a good home. We are talking to some of the broadcasters in Australia, both ABC, which is the key, which is like the Doordarshan of Australia, who are looking at the film. So we want to obviously, it's not like a small film that we are planning, the dreams for the film are big, and we want to reach out and ensure that as many people as we can watch it, and it's very accessible and it's very available. And because the whole point of the film is inclusion, we'll have closed captions, audio description. We'll ensure that we screen it at the most accessible venues so that we are walking that talk as well.
Prithul Kumarji, sir, can you talk about the significance of a project like this, and really how this makes you feel, and how do you think we, as a filmmaking nation, can really empower and enable for more of projects of this nature to be encouraged?
So I think this question, ma'am can answer better, Nimithu ma'am, because this is a co-directed film, I think. This is not a co-produced film. So for co-production agreements, which we've just signed, I think it is more for co-production. And like she says that the Australian government has been kind enough to fund everything because the project was so very much close to their heart. I think that's how. So I think these subjects are very important, the way they're doing it. And I'm sure that, if there's a way to work it out, like a co-production also at this stage, you can start doing it, because, if a film is produced under a co-production agreement with an Indian co-producer on board, it'll be a national film for Australia as well as a national film for India. So the taxes and all that release and distribution becomes much easier. And also because I think this is more about Indian diaspora, such wonderful directors working on these stories, and these stories are quite moving. So I'm sure that, you can find ways to, put it in such a platter that Indians are also equally absorbed in, the film. Thank you.
Lovely. Vidya, it's very clear that the Victorian government is very invested in the Indian Film Festival of Melbourne, now this project. What are some of the other initiatives we can expect? And is the plan to do more things? Is there, I mean, these are 4 incredible filmmakers. Will there be a sequel? Will there be more films?
That's a question for me too. we're going to be very tight-lipped about it, I think. But yes, we would definitely want to do another My Melbourne. This one's taken longer than we had expected, anticipated. But the thing is, this movie came in from Mitu's idea and everything, and the government was just endorsing it. So we can't do anything without the funding, so we said no, there's more of a goodwill. And we just spoke about, the largest diaspora, and Victoria right now has got the largest Indian diaspora. We topped the list on tourism from India, we topped the list on international students, so we are there. So it's just that, this is like aligning very well with what the larger narrative is for us. So of course, if Mitu says we have to do another My Melbourne, we have to do another My Melbourne. Nobody says no to Mitu.
No one says no to Mitu. That's the sort of recurring motive of this chat. Imtiaz, I know, I keep repeating. I know you're yet to shoot the film, but have you had conversation? I mean, have you had sort of brainstorming sessions on script? I know there have been some Zoom calls. Have you met your mentee? Any sort of observations? And also, it's interesting what you said earlier. You said this is you described this as an opportunity for you to sort of widen your own sort of perspective and go out and make a film in a foreign land with young people who've had different experiences. Can you talk a little bit more about that, and maybe so far what the experience has been, sort of jamming with them on ideas, and what is just before you go into shoot?
I have been talking to Mitu and her team, and I've been introduced to the mentee director and the writers, who are all very bright, younger than me people. And I think I am actually looking forward to many, many more sessions with them in which we can understand each other better. And I think, as Onish said, that to be able to see something from somebody else's point of view is the only way that somebody learns in life. And I think that has already begun, because for me, that has begun. Mitu had told me the story, and then she supervised the writing of the script. And then I was given that script to read. And while I was reading it, it was so different from how I would have written a script or how I think scripts should be written, that it was quite enchanting. And so there are things that I don't understand, which I have been very vocal about. In yesterday's meeting with them, I said, let's not try to be best friends with each other. Let's try to make a good film. I think there is too much detail and blah, blah, blah. Sure. So I feel that the interaction has begun. Right. And I really want to make it a real live experience for myself. And that's the only way that it might become the same for them. So I've challenged them a little bit, actually. So thank God they're not here to listen. And they'd probably challenge me back, and then we can learn from each other. I'm really looking forward to this. And later on, when the film shoot is over, then it would be nice to recount all of the things that we've picked up in the journey.
Okay. Rima and Onir, I mean, since you have shot your films, what was it like working with younger, I'm guessing, opinionated people, young filmmakers with opinions, very woke, very, very young, very full of ideas, full of a lot of clarity. That's not necessarily how you make films here. You're both fiercely independent filmmakers. How was, Imtiaz said very nicely, interestingly, that he sees this as an opportunity for him to learn and grow as well. Was that the experience that you all had as well, working with these younger, newer filmmakers?
The experience was quite exciting and interesting. And when with me, I don't have a script, so I'm intuitive when I work, but with this, because we were having discussions, but when I was there, present in Melbourne, then things also changed a lot. evolved, and we also had differences. And also, I think this project is amazing. It's a really good initiative for them. For us, somehow, because we are four directors, and we already like having our own journey. So our responsibility is like execute the story. Finally, the result is important. So I try to, talk to them that sometimes you cannot be also emotional. You need to be practical. And these Manti directors and also there were other in the team. I think for them it is a good project where they can learn, and they are not only working in one project. They are involved in 2 and more projects. So for them, it is a quite a practical experience, I think. And sometimes young, like I myself, I'm self-taught, and I was just shooting, learning. It's kind of a film school for me. So I tried to also convey that message. Sometimes we have vision, but when we are thinking about a story, but executing is very different. Like, so I hope it will be like a great journey and opportunity for them. Yes.
Onir?
I think what was exciting is also this is a platform where, because one is working with an Australian cast and crew who are also from the diaspora and Australian, you kind of open up each other's industry, because it also opens up for them the possibility of working with us here in India, So it's also like it's important for us to learn certain industry practices if we are going and shooting there. So it's equally important for them to learn how we work, because we are the world's largest filmmaking industry, and we also are increasingly becoming a space where people can come and work here, And I think it was very funny, because the first weekend on Saturday, I go to the office, Meetu is there, and I realized none of the assistants or anybody had come, because Saturday, Sunday is a holiday. So they all got blasted from me that, no, we have a shoot after 10 days, you better be here, kind of a thing. So it's also learning about, how, because I feel that out here, because again, like when you work independently, there is a lot that you have to do yourself, whereas in Australia, because of the support that the producers and Victoria provides young filmmakers, a lot one takes for granted. It's easily available, and it's, even making this platform available to all the students, it's a huge opportunity that the festival has made it possible. So it's important to understand that and to, respect. And for me, it was also amazing to see, because you're working with, I had one actor from Bangladesh, one from India, and one who lives between UK and Australia, So it was interesting, because each come from a different lived-in experience, to be working with them. And my mentee director, who is of Chinese origin, the way they look at sexuality, the way they look at their journeys, and then we all coming together with various different backgrounds, and how do we meet a meeting point, and that is what life is about, the meeting point, and that is for me the journey that is precious.
Onir, Rima, do you have any words of advice for Imtiaz, who's going to embark on this soon after?
If you don't cook, learn cooking.
Meetu, what?
It
Sorry.
was beautiful. I think it was beautiful. For me, it was quite a learning process. And also, it is like our emotion is universal. And there, although in the beginning I had that, okay, how it would be like, it would be different, but it's all heart, If you are going with open mind and like open heart, I think we can work anywhere in the world, yes.
Meetu, what are the next steps towards sort of strengthening this exchange? Are there other things in the oven being baked? What can one expect? I mean, there is an incredible film festival that's doing that once every year, and now you have all your program. I notice you have a film of this nature, and Pratul Kumarji in fact said that there should be a co-production now. Here's a co-direction, and what are there more ideas sort of simmering?
There are lots of ideas, and the Indian government and Australian government are very supportive for this cultural exchange. And the good thing is that from the festival point of view, we now have a streaming platform. We have our festival. We've launched the My Melbourne initiative. From the co-production point of view, there are lots and lots of scripts that are being written in Australia, which are not just about arranged marriage or Can't Curry Love or My Bollywood Bride, which are, I'm going to stab my eye if I have to read another script like that, but which are more unique and original and authentic. And I think this is going to become a very exciting space because A, there is a lot of goodwill and intent from both the government to push this forward, and B, that the creative forces that are here and also in Australia who want to work with each other. So I think in the years to come, it's going to be great. We were, I think, a bit ahead of the curve because we launched this in 2019, but then COVID hit, and now we finally started shooting it. And even though this is not a co-production per se, but I feel emotionally and creatively it's beyond a co-production because all of us are so invested in it. But there are lots and lots of feature films that are already feature film, television shows, shows for streaming platform that are already being planned and designed that are going to fit beautifully in this space. So I think there's a very exciting time, and if there are young filmmakers here who have thoughts and ideas and they want to start working on something in this space, by all means please do, because I think the world is really your oyster now.
I'm going to open it out to the audience in a minute. I just want to ask you, Mithu, at this point, established filmmakers from India are working with mentees in Melbourne, who some of whom are of Indian origins, some are from South Asian. Is there an opportunity for, because we're at FICCI where there's younger filmmakers, there's writers, producers, directors. Do you see in the future perhaps opportunities where you could work with younger directors here or newer and not yet established but people with great ideas? Can the exchange be both ways?
Absolutely, that's my goal. In fact, we have, like Vidya said, we have the Shah Rukh Khan Scholarship, which Shah Rukh himself launched. And we had a beautiful young Indian student who's gone to La Trobe and she's doing a PhD. And now we're going to launch the second one, where another Indian female student is going to go to Melbourne and study. Similarly, the hope is that we are trying to rope in a key Australian university who have a film school here as well, to try and get film students, emerging creatives from India to come and work in Australia and work on our film. So that is something that we are actively working towards already.
Thank you. Thank you. I think we have time for a few questions. The gentleman on the table. I think stand up.
One is that I read through the treaty when it had come out, but what you just said about the grant and other information, probably the application process, probably the review process, where can one get know all of that information? Is there, like FFO has the treaty scanned, but nothing other than that. So is there like a single window process where we can also apply, get to know the status, all of that? That's the first part thing. And second is, why do we have so less of treaties? I think there's like 15 or 16 we have. Why can't we have a little bit more of those?
So I'm glad you asked this question, actually. This is, see, what we sitting here and discussing with these eminent filmmakers, we also realize that creativity, can only flourish when there are lesser or probably no procedural pains. So this is what government has been working out. And the important thing which you said is that through FFO, we've tried to put everything on that portal. But in the background, actually, FFO is actually a connect between the filmmaker to the various government bodies and also the state governments, as I may say. And actually, you know, we launched this portal way back in 2016. And then it was limited to only foreign co-producers, foreign producers, not even co-producers. And it was only meant to, you know, make the Indian locations film shooting flourish. So, you know, it was aimed at that agenda. And we were only facilitating people for film visas and stuff like that. In 2019, we said, no, I mean, this cannot be limited to that because, you know, you just can't get people here and then, like, they are praising Melbourne government so much. My intent would be that 1 year down the line, they should be praising the Indian government even more. So that is how we are working on. But then, you know, in 2019, what we did is we said that, no, we will try and go a step ahead. And we have also done like various other clearances, like if you have to shoot at a railway station, you probably require a railway organization's clearance. If you have to shoot at Archaeological Survey of India kind of property, a heritage site or something, you require their permission. So, you know, all of that is there. And if you are shooting in a municipal limits of a city, then the municipal committee, these things. We are trying to integrate it. There are a lot of efforts being done by the government per se, holistically. So there's the government's portal called National Single Window Portal. So it is also there, but still, you know, we find that it is not specifically designed for film shooting permissions.
It's not more of permissions related, like the treaty also pans out the details about the visa.
So what you're asking is that not just the permissions, but, you know, also the incentives and what all is meant for. So treaty basically lays down that. Then after that, if you have any question, there is a help, customer care kind of feedback kind of mechanism available. If you mail them, I'm sure they'll respond. Because now what we've done is since January 2023, this earlier Film Federation, Film Facilitation Office was manned by NFDC, a wing of Ministry of Information and Broadcasting. And I happen to be that MD NFDC also, but then we tried and we have given it to a organization called Invest India. So Invest India is an organization which facilitates all trade coming from outside to India to the various places wherever they want to do. So they are basically facilitating foreign investments into India. So we wanted to capitalize this thing, because they have a connect with the embassy, they have a connect with the international trade. They also have a connect with the states where they will eventually set up their plants and all that. So we wanted to capitalize on that. And then January, we have given the work of this FFO to them. We are trying to, you know, expand its working primarily through a portal. So we are redesigning a portal. We probably in a month's time, we'll be able to, you know, float a tender to get a person. And 1 year, I think next Wiki Frames, we should be here, you know, a lot of people availing the benefits of such a portal. But needless to say, those incentives are both ways. Like I said, that Indian government would go out and extend incentives up to the level of 2.5 crores for the whole film. There's, of course, something called a qualified expenditure. We say that something's qualified, something's not qualified. So, I mean, that you have to make sure. But then, under this agreement, Australian government is also obliged to extend you their side of co-production, this thing. So if you are offsetting around, I mean, that is also to the extent of 30% of your film can be offset by Indian side. To the same amount can be offset. So the filmmaking for you, for a filmmaker like you, will be much more cheaper, like you, because, and in fact, apart from this, I'd also like to extend that we've not been able to communicate this thing, but you also get a tax credit of all the GST which you pay. Of course, if you're shooting in India, if you're producing in India, even if you're doing your animation and VFX in India, because, you know, India is slowly becoming a VFX hub. So that also you get that tax credit and those incentives. So in all, I think the Indian government would pool in around 48%, if I may add those 30% and the 88% of tax credit. So you can understand that, the kind of subsidy on your cost it'll account to.
Part I'm working with on a project, and there the bodies are distinguished to make it a official co-production, like we call it, like a national film. So what would be the bodies here? Would it be NFDC or would it be
FFO only. So there's an online, right now also as we're speaking, the portal is not so bad. You can make an online application with the co-production agreement which you have with the Australian co-producer. You can file an application, and I'm happy to say in front of this audience is that the target which we set for ourselves was to approve a co-production agreement within 30 days. I mean, one of the best countries like Thailand, we were told that they also do it in 90 days, but we have slated a target of 30 days, and I'll tell you there have been 13 co-production agreements. Some of them got stuck, but there's still the average of Indian government is 19 days. I mean, I don't want to self-praise the Indian government, but actually, in the background, we're trying to do this thing. So you try and apply online, and I'm sure that you'll get the approvals very fast. You'll not even get to know who's working in the background. That's the whole of it.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who has a question? Yes, the lady here.
I had a question for you, ma'am, actually. So it's a really great initiative that you started, because I went to the New York Film Academy in Los Angeles and I studied there, but then there wasn't someone like you to help support us in a way that we can work with Indian filmmakers. So I want to ask you, like, how there's a mentee-mentor relationship happening between Australian students with such great directors out here. Would there be an opportunity for Indian filmmakers to be a part of that initiative as well in that space?
So at the moment, we don't have that option because the whole project is based in Melbourne, and and it's mostly for Australian citizens or Australian permanent residents who are mostly of Indian or South Asian background. However, like I said before, my goal is that to keep broadening the scope. So we've already got the approval for the second My Melbourne, which we are very excited about. And I'm hoping to tie up with one of the leading Australian universities who also have a base here, and maybe work something through them where they can sponsor a couple of students, Indian students living in India, to come and work in Australia, which is really good because how we work creatively is a lot about understanding and working and understanding each other's process and adapting to each other's process and so forth. So all of that, I think, makes that whole creative journey a lot richer and easier. So that is what we are working on, and hopefully we will be successful because, like I said, intent for everyone, whether it's government, universities, us, Indian government, is for us to work more and more together closely. So filmmakers like you, I would love to have filmmakers like you come and work with us because we all are so much richer when there's a diverse crew. So that's the aim. Hopefully in a couple of years' time, we'll crack that. Thank you.
Thank you. If that's all, I'm going to say thank you to the panel. Thank you, everyone, for speaking very candidly and explaining the opportunities. Thank you. More power, Mitu. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Rajiv, also for such a nice and a vigorating session. Yeah, I think so.